I'm Ben Polarin. I'm a leader of the Youth Environmental Society. Welcome to today's panel discussion on how every job is a green job. We are joined today here by three amazing sustainability professionals who all found their pathways toward environmental justice in different pathways. Gabe Dominguez is the director of Ecotopia Now, a revolutionary eco-literacy program in Utah and co-founder of the Bicycle Music Festival in San Francisco. His band, Shake Your Peace, performs WUP music, multicultural music with an ecotopian perspective. Gabe is also half of the folk duo Tiny Home. Renata Barnesn is the director of programs of community engagement for the Outdoor Equity Alliance. She spent 2 decades in New York City working in the film and television industry before returning to New Jersey, where she works for Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space in Mercer. Liz Coulter taught English at the Princeton Day School for 37 years. During this time, she was instrumental in establishing the PBS Sustainability Program. Liz also founded OASIS, a consortium for educators focusing on sustainability in schools. Currently, Liz is a whole school sustainability consultant. And then I'll be asking questions for you guys. The first question is, can you tell us a little bit more about the trajectory of your career path and then how it led to your environmental justice work?
Oh, no. Ben? Yeah. Sorry.
Pink always wins.
Check. All right, pink wins. I like it. Okay. So, the trajectory. I would say I was hitchhiking around. I was riding freight trains. I didn't want to be part of the mainstream creeping meatball, destroying the world on autopilot. Probably many of you relate to this feeling. You just don't want to participate in that program, in the business as usual. So I was trying to figure out what to do. I've always loved music and loved performing. And so I was living in a tent on the roof of a Latino musicians collective in the Mission District of San Francisco. And I was listening to this band perform in the basement downstairs, this Latin band, my housemates' band. And I just thought to myself, what if we could get an entire, salsa band on bicycles riding through Utah, which was my home state, and performing at high schools and at towns and at colleges along the way. I thought that would be like a glimpse into Ecotopia, like the world of social and ecological justice in motion. And everyone who came to the concert would sort of be in our theater. The audience, just by being there, would be performers in a vignette, a live action, life acting vignette of Ecotopia. So that was kind of how it came to me. I just started asking, like, how would a band tour in Ecotopia? How could you bring a drum set and a cello and all that? And I said, well, you would tour on bike, and you would have a bicycle-powered sound system where all the electricity is generated by the audience, pedaling bicycles in place. And so that muse, how would this be done in Ecotopia, kind of got me going. And I've since thought, that I've been doing carpentry a lot lately, and that's also been guiding my carpentry. Like, what does carpentry look like in Ecotopia? And so a lot of that is looking backwards at how it's been done traditionally, ancestral traditions, our pan-indigenous heritage that we share, and then also looking at the cool, groovy, innovative things that people are coming up with today, like ways to treat wood that involve no chemicals to help make it last for a really long time, and sustainable forestry practices. But the muse is, what does blank look like in Ecotopia?
Well, my story isn't half as groovy as that. I am the meatball, and I embrace the meatball, and I think you gotta work sometimes from within the meatball, because most of the world is the meatball. And if you don't work within the meatball, it's hard to change it. So my story is a story of following my passion. I don't know what you guys love, everybody loves something different, but what I loved in high school, I loved 2 things. I loved reading great fiction, and I loved nature. And so I followed those 2 threads my whole life. Teaching English was the most wonderful career. I can't think of a job that's better, even riding bicycles through Utah, than talking with people about literature where you're talking about what it means to be a human on the planet. And so every English class can be really a class about sustainability. So I used to teach courses on food, culture, and writing, which were thinly disguised sustainability classes, or people of principle, or wilderness literature, or any way to get folks to talk about what it means to be human on the planet, and to do that through art. I think, and I started a summer camp, a wilderness summer camp. I was a wilderness instructor for many, many years. So those two paths have gone along side by side, often merging. I started a youth environmental club in 1985. I think it's probably the oldest one in the country. I started being a sustainability director before there was a word for sustainability, and creating a consortium of schools to figure out how to do it together. So what I do now is I go around to schools all over the country, and I say, how do we educate for the future? Like, what is education anyway? Like, what's the point of education? Why are we here? And some of it's, of course, to get jobs, right? We all need to go to work, make money to live. But also, we're global citizens. How do we educate to be global citizens? So that's been the through line for me in my work in education. And I'm an eco-artist. So I have a whole website of eco-art, which is what I do on the side. Because how do you get people to see nature? We just walk by it all the time. So art helps us see it. Caroline, do you go by Caroline? No.
Oh,
Ms. McGrath. Ms. McGrath. She will tell you that that's true.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
So my story isn't nearly as cool as what these two got going on, so let me just tell you that right now. How I got involved with working in the environment is really quite serendipitous. As you were told, I spent a lot of time in New York City. I'm a New Yorker. And I did grow up here. I actually graduated from this high school back in the Jurassic period. So all this is really kind of cool to me, a weird way of coming full circle. So how I got involved with the environment, like I said, quite serendipitous. Actually, the events of the 2010s with all the black men being shot and all this kind of racial upheaval, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff was pretty, and you guys all, you guys are all probably much, much younger when a lot of that was going on, but it was really disruptive, and it brought home a couple of questions that I don't think we all think about, particularly when it comes to the environment, is it's a privilege to have access to the environment anytime you want. Should it be a right? Absolutely. Is it? Absolutely not. And one of the things that really struck me, I started an organization or a group here in town called Hopewell Valley Race and Diversity, and then it's morphed into Hopewell Valley Together to kind of deal with the issues of injustice, racial things, so on and so forth in the community. And it's quite odd that I didn't really think about it in terms of the environment. Not that I didn't know, you can look through the annals of history and see environmental segregation. Anybody got any examples for me? Anybody? Know of any? Go ahead.
I know Trenton has like one of the least amounts of like preserved open space, like in Hopewell.
Facts. Facts.
Traditionally like lower income or like poor color. So yeah.
Facts, facts. And that stems from a lot of things. Stems from redlining, stems from traditional and legislative environmental disenfranchisement. If you look back in the 50s and the 60s, you'll see that people of color were not allowed to go, and you can go to Shenandoah National Park, and there were signs that said white only. We couldn't swim anywhere. There were certain beaches, American Beach, the Inkwell, were the places that we established, Idlewild. There was a lot of disenfranchisement, and not just for black people, but for Latino people, for Native people. Anybody who was from the non-dominant culture could not participate. And so when you talk about being involved in outside or in the woods or whatever, we were joking about, you know, playing in the woods. Playing in the woods, I was not trying to play in the woods. Okay? Bad stuff happened when you went into the woods. But what we did growing up is we lived in a housing subdevelopment over here in Pennington, so we were able to do that. But my mother had fears. So all that to say, my trajectory into this work came through realization that not everybody had access, and what that meant. What does that mean when you can't go outside freely? Anybody? Anybody got a clue what that means? It means you can't benefit from all the things that the outside does for you, and also it means there's a lack of stewardship to our environment. Now you guys all know what stewardship is, right? So people caring, it's all our responsibility. For all our differences, one of the things that I've learned is that the one thing that brings us all together is the environment. It's the one thing that we all need. Everybody needs this, no matter who you are or what you believe or anything else. When the earth fails, guess what? We in trouble. So I guess my message is, take care of the earth will take care of you. And also, I am the director of the outdoor, I am one of the directors of the Outdoor Equity Alliance. My role is the director of community program, programming and community engagement. And we have a couple of internships going on. I see one of my interns here. Sorry, Eileen, who's a part of our Acrohood program. So, shameless plug, come on out and play with us next year, all right?
All right, our next question is, can you talk about the future of work and how every job should and will be a green job in the future?
Well, probably y'all have thought of this before, but the only benefit of everything being so messed up is that everything can be improved. It's kind of hard to do worse than destroying the entire planet and on autopilot and oppressing people across the planet who will never meet. Pretty easy to do better than that. So every area of society has room for us to imagine and to lead. And what's so beautiful is that we're all so dang quirky, we're all so different, and my own wife just doesn't understand. She still doesn't get why riding bikes with instruments and powering sound systems with bikes is interesting or cool. She's like, I'm happy that you're into it, and I'm glad that other people get excited about it, but I just don't get it, So, and she's down, she's an ecotopian person, but she's, so I just think that that's really funny and indicative of how many different little slices we each need to be carrying, whether, think about I have a friend who's a doctor and a musician, but she's been studying how the body mirrors the environment that we are in, literally medically. So, problems with your respiratory system mirroring problems with the respiration of the earth. So, if the forests, if the trees in your area are harmed, what does that medically look like? And then which populations, of course, looking at race issues and income issues and the intersectional oppression. How do those intersect with medical? So she's working with other doctors to be like, what does medicine look like in Ecotopia? So, the list is endless, and so, yeah.
I think I would answer in two ways. First of all, what are the jobs that are out there now? So I must get, every day, 5 or 6 LinkedIn requests for me to look at environmental jobs that exist already. And they're in every field. They're in business, they're in travel, they're in industry, they're in education. They're in every sector that you can imagine going into now. The other side of that is that if you simply ask the question, where does it come from and where does it go? As a lens to every job that you do, then it's easy to make every job be a green job. And from my experience, I would tell you that, first of all, sustainability is the hottest major in colleges in the country, bar none. And so I was a sustainability director for 20 years. There are now sustainability director jobs in every single school in the country. That didn't, well,
Except
I mean,
this one.
at the college level. But below the college level, it's coming. So the wave's going to wash over us. And you can go at it one of two ways. You can either look for a green job that already exists, of which there are many, 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 many. Doesn't matter what your interest, there's a way to do it as a green job. Or make it up yourself, which is what I did. Just make up your own green job. There wasn't a directorship at Princeton Day School when I started. But if you look at what the mission of education is, even in Hopewell Valley, I will say, where there isn't a green director or an environmental director, the mission of the school is in sync with environmental issues. Because there's been so much research, as Gabe was suggesting, and as Renata was suggesting, on how much healthier we are mentally, physically, psychologically, intellectually, when we spend time in nature. And we only say what we love. I mean, so if we don't love nature, if we don't fall in love with nature, if we don't find a way to be outside, to get our butts outside, to get off our devices and get outside, we're not going to say that. So, put that in your job description.
Yeah, I also think that no matter what job you choose, all right, you can bring in your own convictions about how you need to be moving in the earth, how you need to be about caring for the earth. Now, I know as much as I would love everybody to be a conservationist and a steward and a farmer, because farmers are my people, I know that that's not true. But I think by thinking about the things, the convictions you have now, the things that you're learning from the different groups, eat better, be a better consumer, be a better brother or sister or whatever to somebody else. Look out for more than just yourself. Look ahead so you can kind of plot what you need to be doing now, and look behind you so you can see the mistakes of the past. All of this stuff is important. So when you're moving in, let's say you're going to be an architect, or let's say you're going to be whatever, you can bring recycling issues. You can also be mindful of your own consumption, packaging, where food and clothing and so much is coming from. All of the little things you can do that can change the atmosphere or just the feel of wherever you're going to be working. And you can start that now at your part-time job, or if you've got a full-time job or whatever. And it's not so much about preaching the gospel, it's about living it. It's about doing what you need to be doing. And you can do something now. So, I mean, I love what I do, and who'd have thought, you guys, who'd have thought that I would have fallen or tripped and fell into this type of work and seen the convergence of everything that I've studied. I spent time being a missionary in South America. I spent time doing, working in the entertainment industry, and what a trip that was. The excess, the waste is phenomenal. And also the idea that I've met so many different kinds of people in this work. So diverse, so interesting, so challenging. It's the kind of thing that stirs your soul in a way that keeps you up at night. In a way that keeps you up at night. In a way that makes you wonder about what it is about what it is you're actually doing. Now, I'll say one thing that I've learned. It's later than you think.
I just want to add one thing, which is I think it's all about living your values.
It's about living your values. So it's easy to make any job be a green job once you decide you're going to live your values. And that doesn't mean talking the game. I always say to my students, it's one thing to do this. It's quite another thing to act.
Right.
So You know, thrift. Nice outfit, right? $3.75. Right, so, right, you know,
What does it mean to have clothes that came from sweatshops, that were made by people making, 10 cents a day, or the pollution that those clothes cost the environment? Just live your values, ask the question, where's it come from, where's it go, with everything you do.
Alright, so we have like 8-ish minutes left, so I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll open it up to audience questions. What advice would you give to young people considering their passions and what they can contribute to the world?
I guess I would say, don't feel bad if you're feeling like you feel really passionate and you want to see the more beautiful world and you can envision it, and you're like, but where do I plug in? Like, it's not there. I want to encourage you to have grace for yourself, because the world that we are envisioning doesn't exist yet. We have little portals into it that we've all tasted. That's probably why we're all here, because we've seen a taste of it. We've gotten it under our fingernails in the farm, or seen it in the students you've worked with when they're like talking about the literature.
Like your wife.
Like my wife, who was one of Liz's students. So we've gotten these tastes, but just remember, the world is going to say, hey, we've got a green job for you. We need guards at our prison for indigenous people in the rainforest who we arrested because they were protesting our bulldozing of their forest. But this prison is producing all of its own electricity because it's solar powered. You know what I mean? And so you got to see through a lot of crap to truly express your values. And I feel like the world is going to try to keep trying to push you onto the freeway, because the freeway is wide and it's smooth and it's well lit, and the deer trail up the mountain toward truth is tiny and it's dirty and it's awesome. But you got to keep looking that direction, and don't feel bad if you're like, God, I'm on the freeway again. How'd they get me here again? Because everything is made to make it easy to channel your enthusiasm into supporting business as usual. Always. They're come work for Tesla and help us make our mines to make more lithium batteries, more green or whatever the heck. And they're going to try to keep fooling you. So that's what I would say.
I'm going to say yes and. Life is life. So there's no judgment here. I say, my best advice to you, do the best you can with every decision that you make every day. And be gentle with yourselves. Life, you don't have to make all your life decisions today.
Absolutely.
So take it one step at a time. Do what feels right next. And that may be different in a year, 6 months, 5 years. So, yeah, take it one step at a time, but be kind to yourselves. And remember that what you do with your life isn't for anyone else. It isn't for your parents. It isn't so that they can have a cocktail party line that their kid is doing, working for Goldman Sachs, making $1 million or whatever. On the other hand, I just met a woman who works for Goldman Sachs, and I said something snarky when I first met her. And then I found out that what her job at Goldman Sachs was that she was investing $500 billion in green tech. Now, is that the freeway? Yes, and?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you said. I think, listen, you don't have to figure it all out. And you'll be figuring it out from now until you hit dirt. That's just how it goes. So, yeah, I mean, nobody here has arrived anywhere. We're still on the road. We may have a few more miles than y'all, but you'll be here soon enough, trust. How many of you guys are seniors? Tomorrow's today, right? How many of you guys are freshmen? Sophomores? Yeah, 3 short years. And I mean short. Can ask the seniors, weren't you freshmen last year? Oh my God, you woke up and my gosh, I'm 18 years old. So I agree with that, and I certainly think that it's worth, the idea of being gracious to yourself and having grace and forgiveness is something you need for yourself. You're gonna mess up, all right, you wake up, you work it out. You take the lumps that come with it and you keep on rolling. Don't get stuck, for crying out loud, don't get stuck. Get up and move, keep moving. And don't forget, particularly in the environmental field, understand that there's a lot of virtue signaling, like you were saying, a whole lot of people green this and healthy this. Lies. There's so much of that. So be circumspect. Look closely. The other thing is that everybody doesn't have access. This is a great school with a great education. Great, just a lot of great things here. Everybody doesn't have that. Everybody doesn't come from where you come from. So be mindful that there is inequity and inequality in this world, and particularly when it comes to the environment. So I ask you guys to keep that in mind. But keep on keeping on. I really think what you said was great. I think that was great. So thanks.
I'm going to add one more thing. That's right, you come up. Just to say that.
I just want to give you a heads up. Bell's going to ring in 2 minutes, and kids are going to evacuate.
While they're getting up, I was going to say one thing. Get up and ask you a thing.
Just audience questions like you should.
Just don't let anything get in your way. Right? No is always a bus stop on the way to yes.
Does anyone have any questions for the panelists?
I just had a really quick question. Advice on hitchhiking?
Oh,
We can talk about that afterwards.
When did you guys come to realize or start labeling your jobs as like a green job or like an environmental job?
Well, I knew mine, I knew what I was doing, so yeah.
You always kind of had that under your title in some sense?
Oh, well, this particular job, that was always part of it.
Right.
It was a road to get to where I am now.
I made up my own job. I made up my own job description. It happened around 2005.
Same. Made up my own job description, yeah.
Would you say that you're an eco-musician?
I would, yeah, that's a good question. I guess I would just say I'm part of the tradition of like the unending tradition of artists who are, people who are working for civil rights, who are working for rights for everybody, a world that works for everybody. So, yeah, eco-musician, I guess a musician in the tradition, yeah.
Before everybody goes, let's give a big round of applause.